to part 2 of the Alpha Models Porsche 911 GT3. So we're back, we're starting with some photo etch cleanups. We've got our Zoron photo etch shears and a bit of a laborious job of going through all the photo etch, cutting off the nubs. Now the great thing about these Zoron cutters is they mostly get rid of all the PE fret marks. Anything left behind we can clean up with our Tamiya diamond file. I mount all my photo etch on wooden tongue depressors on Tamiya tape. This is how I put it on. I literally turn the ends over, stick it down, pull it tight, and then get another couple of pieces of Tamiya tape to go over the end of that. And yes, there we go. Peel a bit off. Just put it around the end of each one. Now the tongue depressors you can use multiple times. The tape you can only use once. So once you've done this lot of photo etch, the paint gets on there and it loses all its stickiness. But this for me is the ideal way of painting all the photo etch. Have seen people paint it on the fret, but you're always going to end up with parts that have no paint on when you're going to cut it off. So for me, cut it off the fret, clean it up as required, and then stick it on some reverse Tamiya tape like this. For me, it works the best, and it's a nice secure mounting method as well. So there's lots of parts to cut off. Literally virtually every part you're going to use on the bigger parts, and some of the smaller ones are mostly optional parts. You won't use them all because they tend to have multiple pieces, like the wing mirror inserts you can often get as metal stickers in the kit, so on and so forth. But cleaning up pretty simple. Some of the photo etch is thinner than the others, so be careful. It is easily damaged and bent. Like I say, it's a bit of a boring job to do, but once it's done, it's done. So we're in the booth, all the resin is mounted, ready for paint. We've got some Mr. Surfacer 1500 black through my iWater Revolution CR3. I'm just going to put down a nice few coats of that on there and on the interior as well. So this is going to give us our black primer coat for our Napa black leather, LP5, the metal colours, basically everything that's either going to be dark painted black or carbon or what have you. And then we're going to spray a lighter colour primer for like our brake calipers, which are going to be yellow, and so on and so forth. So just work your way around, get all the nooks and crannies, all the edges, until you get everything painted up. The seats, again, a little bit fiddly to do because there's lots of different angles. Just take your time, and like I say, lots of bits of paint. So just take your time. Don't flood the paint on. Put a coat on, but work your way around the part. Often by the time you come back, it's dried. Mr. Surfacer 1500 is very forgiving to spray. It's a really nice primer. Same on the wheels. We're going with Mr. Surfacer 1500 black again. So get all around the top of the rim first, and then work your way underneath. Yep. And yeah, there you go. Make sure your rim is sprayed properly. Getting all those nooks and crannies, and like I say, especially get underneath the rim. Now for the photo etch part, we've got Pro Scale Paint's photo etch primer. This is our specially developed etch primer for photo etch. So it's not thick. It will not infill all the grills or lose any surface detail, but will give an absolutely beautiful primer surface for paint. So this will chemically attach itself to the metal. It's a lot more resistant to scratching than standard primers. Obviously it will still scratch because it is on metal where we're putting things, but this will chemically etch itself to the metal and just lays down a really nice primer coat. Our window wipers are already built up. Sorry, Philip. You've seen me build these up so many times now, guys. I don't need to keep showing them. Standard way of building them. They all build up the same. And we give them a couple of light coats of the etch primer, making sure we're getting all those angles, recesses, just nice and slow. We primed up all the other parts as well. They've all been primed in white. So our brake calipers is basically it. We're the only part primed in white. And we're going to paint those in brake caliper yellow. So I think this is going to be a really nice colour combination with the green. And I think it is Porsche's indication that you've got carbon ceramic discs, if I remember correctly. I might be wrong, but I'm sure that the yellow is pretty standard for the carbon ceramic discs. And like I say, we're priming these in white Tamiya primer, and we're going over the Pro Scale brake caliper yellow. Couple of light coats, getting all those angles, nooks and crannies, put it down, let it flash off for 5 minutes, and we'll come back with a second coat. And the colour will build up nicely, as you can see. And we'll decal these and clear coat them later on, and they will really pop once clear coated. So there we go. This is my Iwata HPC Plus. We've got some GX2 Mr. Hobby Gloss Black now as well on our wheels. Going with gloss black against the green. I think, again, it'd be a nice colour combination. Those brake calipers will show really well in the black wheels as well. So with the GX2, I find it likes to go down wet, especially on the later coat. So I tend to put like a base coat down, let it flash off, and then come back with a couple of wetter coats so we get a nice gloss black. And then for the rest of the parts, they are LP5 Tamiya. Now, there are carbon decals for this diffuser and a few other parts of the car, but there's not carbon for some of the other parts. And yes, I didn't want to do half carbon and half painted black because I think it'll look odd. And the other components that didn't come with carbon decals would have been unbelievably tricky to carbon. So I opted to paint it all black. Now, if you look at the majority of GT3 Porsches, they just have black plastic trim on the bodywork. So I thought it's fitting, it works perfect, so it's what we're going to do. On the metal work, we've got Pro Scale Paint Superfine Silver. This is becoming fast one of my favourite silver colours we sell. Super finely pigmented, very nice bright silver, painting the light clusters for the front headlights and the tailpipes as well. So a couple of light coats of that, letting it flash off between. Build it up nice and slow. Yeah, absolutely beautiful colour. And for our painted, our primed brake disc, we've got Pro Scale Paints carbon ceramic colour here as well. And again, a couple of light coats of this, getting all the fronts first, and then we'll angle it to make sure we get all the sides. Just working our way around with very nice light thin coats. Not a lot of paint going down on here at all. Looks a bit odd the way I'm painting it, but yeah, it's just the way I paint. And there we go. So with our calipers dry, we've got our Porsche decals to go on. So we get these in standard decal procedure in the water till they come off the backing paper, get them in position with the tweezers, get any water out behind them, and we're going to hit these up with Ultimate Strong Solution. Hobby Design decals in the Alpha Models kits, because Hobby Design and Alpha Models are part of the same company. So very high quality decals, all in place. A quick application of decal solution. And there we go, let those dry. For the interior, we're going with Napa Black leather. So this is Pro Scale Paints Napa Black. Probably one of my favourite leather colours. It's like a grey off black colour. It's a beautiful colour with just enough sheen on it to give a nice realistic leather look as well. So again, another nice like couple of coats on all the parts. Doing our steering wheel as well. Our centre console. So again, don't hose the paint on. There's no need. You put black paint over black primer. It will cover really quickly. So there's no need to hose the paint on. Just build it up nice and slow. On parts like seats like this with the seat bolsters, the backs and everything, just make sure you're getting all those nooks and crannies and get a nice even coverage of paint all over. Now we've got some Mr. Hobby UV clear coat. We're going to thin this with Mr. Hobby leveling thinner. About 50-50. Not measured at all, just done by eye. Quick lug of thinner. And a quick swirl around in a medicine cup. Whee! There we go. Oh, and spill some of it. Don't. We've got our HPCH again. Sorry, HPC Plus, my bad, Iwata. And we're going to clear coat our brake calipers. So we get a nice coat of clear coat down to begin with. Let that flash off for a minute or two. And then come back and we'll put 2 heavier coats down to get a nice gloss finish. So a bit more involved to use than 2K because it takes a few more coats to get that nice wet look. But looking on the wheels, we already had a nice gloss black finish. So these glossed up really quick. So yeah, sometimes you don't need 2K. I think on parts like that, a single stage clear is more than enough. Now, polishing. We've got a new technique today. We've got some actual polishing pads for my rotary tool. So this is the first time I properly use them. We've got some new polishing compounds polishes to use as well. Because we're using a rotary tool, we need some polishes and compounds with a little bit more bite to them. So we're going to go around the whole model with our Trizac 3M pads, 3000, then 6000 and 8000. Get rid of any flaws in the clear, any dust that may have landed in the clear, any imperfections, which is not many, and this will also thin out the clear coat as well. Once we're once we're finished with each sanding sponge, we'll dry it off and have a look. And if you think it needs a bit more, add a little bit more. But going through them all, keeping it wet, a little bit of furry liquid or washing up liquid in the water helps lubricate the sponge. Getting in those nooks and crannies and drying it all off, we get a nice flawless finish. Now this is the set I've got. I've got it on Amazon. I shall put a picture up on screen and I'll put a link in the description down below. Now, you get different compounded sponges. That is the medium one there, blue. We're going on speed 2 on my battery operated drill. So there's no torque to this at all. The obligatory test on the hand. Yeah, there's no real torque to this at all. No real power. And it's perfect for this job. So we've got some Manera compound here. It's a 3500 compound. I've applied it by hand. And then very lightly, hardly any pressure on the tool at all, we're going to go around and polish it up. So we need to be very careful of any raised areas or any edges because this will burn through very quickly, being a powered tool. But this is by far the best polish job I've ever done. I think it's a combination of the actual sponges on the rotary tool, speeding things up, and the Manera compound and polish we use to polish it up as well. Now, if you're doing this by hand, I would recommend using the Ultimate Polishers. They are fantastic for doing by hand. But I've been meaning to try this for a while. And here we go. I have tried this previously with the Ultimate Compound and Polish, and it just didn't have the bite with the rotary tool to get everything perfect. So, like I say, if you're going to do it by hand, I'd still recommend the Ultimate Polishers. They are fantastic. They work really well. They're very forgiving as well. So, with doing this with a rotary tool and more harsher compounds, you do run the risk of burning through the paint, so you need to be very careful. Nice clean bit of t-shirt material, cotton. And we're going to wipe off all that first compound. Now, this is the aggressive compound on the medium pad. And you can already see the shine on that model is phenomenal. It looks absolutely amazing. So it's going to go around and, yeah, very impressed with that. That's worked really, really well. So that is the medium pad and the 3500 Manera compound. So we're going to go all around the body with that until we're happy. So just take your time. Now, one recommendation I have got is where the pad sticks to the yellow mount, because this is a cheaper kind of tool or pads, it's quite sharp. So I ended up putting a bit of black electrical tape around just to protect it if it touched the body, because it is quite a rough piece of plastic. But just go around, just be wary of all the edges and anything that sticks out, because that's where the paint's inherently thinner. And don't spend too long polishing. And don't press too hard at all. You really don't need to press hard. And just work your way around the entire body, making sure that the compound doesn't run dry. And just be systematic, getting all those nooks and crannies until you're happy you've got everywhere polished up. And then we can wipe this off and move on to the actual polish from Manera, which I believe is 2500. They have grades on the bottles. There is a harsher one as well, but I thought for this, the 3500 and 2500 would be fine. And there we go. Get another clean cloth and just wipe it all off. And just off the compound alone, we've got 2 more stages of polishing to do yet. Just off the compound alone, this thing shines like a diamond. Absolutely beautiful. Getting everywhere, nice and thorough. And like I say, that is the harsh compound. And just look at that shine already. Absolutely fantastic. It looks absolutely beautiful. Very impressed. Like I say, I have used these before, but it just didn't cut it with the UMP. So like I say, we can do it by hand. Ultimate Polish is absolutely fantastic. It works absolutely brilliant. But if using this, I think you need something with a bit more bite to it. Now, I've cleaned out all the panel lines. We've got all the old compound off. I'm going to change pads. What I'm going to do is get some electrical tape. I do it off camera. You don't exactly see it, but you see where I put it in a second. And I'm just putting it around the rough edge of the very end of the actual polishing mount, just to protect it if it touches the car. Because I came close a couple of times, and when I felt it, it's actually quite a rough finish. Now you could sand it, you could file it, whatever, but I think the soft electrical tape just adds a little bit of protection. There you go. So yeah, there we go. There's all the compound done. And here's the polish from Manera. Now, different colour, it's a grey colour. And again, I'm just applying it by hand. That way, hopefully we keep its spray to minimal. We've got a fine polishing pad on the battery tool now. And again, we're going to work our way around the whole model. Nice and slow. Not a lot of pressure, like I say. If you press too hard, the sponge completely flattens out. So you kind of want to let it hover. So it still touches the surface without going too crazy on the pressure. And again, just be careful of any edges. You only have a finite amount of 2K to play with. But this is so much easier than hand polishing, so much easier and quicker, and the result is absolutely phenomenal. These polish sets, the actual sponge sets are about £12 on Amazon. You get a whole multitude of different sizes. You get quite a lot for your money. Like I said, I'll put a link in the bottom. The Manera bottles are not cheap. They're about £14 to £18 a bottle. So it's not a cheap way to go. It's a definite investment. But, use what you're happy using in the day. You don't have to go on my recommendation. A lot of people use just normal car polishes rather than compounds and get great results. Just use what's happening. But I think this is something I've wanted to try for a while, and I'm glad I did, because it has made a huge difference in the finishing of the body. And again, we just work our way around the entire model, being wary of all those edges and just taking our time until we're happy, and then get a nice clean bit of cloth again, and we're going to wipe it all over. And again, absolutely just shining like you wouldn't believe. Absolutely beautiful. Looks phenomenal. Now for the final stage, I'm just going to go with Autoglim Super Resin Polish. So when I was looking around at the compound, I thought, what is a good, reliable, just polish? And Autoglim. I had a bottle of it sat there, and I thought, let's give it a go. So here we go. We've got a fresh, fine sponge on the polisher as well. I bought 2 sets of these, so I had 2 sets of each one. And again, we're just going to go around and just lightly polish. So this is probably the mildest of the polishes we've used so far. This is more of a finishing polish. And again, I'm just going to go around and polish it all up nicely. So if you're doing this by hand, I don't know how well these would work. I'm not sure. If I was going to go by hand, I'd go back to the UMP 100%. I've had great results with that over the years. It's a fantastic polishing system. But with a powered tool, I think you just need something with that little bit more bite. I think it works better with the tool. And just look at the shine on this. It's absolutely amazing. It really is. So I'm a definite convert to using those compound sponges. Yes, they make a huge difference. And as long as you're careful and take your time, I didn't burn through any paint. I didn't damage anything. And that just looks absolutely phenomenal. What a shine that's got. Now the fun part, again, the downside to our 2K is it's nice and thin, is all your panel lines are still there. Every 2K I've used in the past has always filled the panel lines. Pro Scales doesn't. So you end up with polish in the panel lines. So the best way to get rid of this is to clean your airbrush out, load your airbrush up with some fresh water, and for the love of God, make sure you are putting water in there, not like a thinner, and just jet wash all the panels. It's an easy way to do it. I find if you go around once and soften it all up, and then go around again, it clears out everything out of there. Toothbrush is handy as well. It's actually quite fun to do this, to be honest. I always enjoy this kind of stage. I guess it's kind of like the big kid in me playing with it. But yeah, a little bit of a jet wash for all the panel lines. Gets rid of all that excess compound, polish and what have you. Yeah, get that wash out, that cleaner out of the way. And yeah, just work your way around until you're happy it's all gone. Now, like I say, you can use a toothbrush as well, or you can use a toothbrush alone. But in the past, I've finished models, put them in the shelf, The polish has taken a while to dry. I've looked back a week later and you can see polish in all the panel lines. So this for me is another must-do step. All around the windows, all around the grills, just everywhere. But I have to say, the paint job on this car, the polish, absolutely fantastic. It looks absolutely beautiful. And then dry it off, just go to air and blast all the water down. Make sure you don't catch the body with the airbrush. We're pushing all the water off the top. We've got less drying to do. There we go. And then we get some clean tissue and we can give it a wipe over. So yeah, highly recommend this polishing set, the sponge set from Amazon. I think it's a worthy addition. I wouldn't run it on something as powerful as a Dremel. I think a Proxxon would do it, but I think you've got a bit of an unwieldy tool there, even with the flexible shaft. I think things like my Herzo battery drill, which are quite low RPM, are perfect for this job. And yeah, I'm just going to dry it all off. And we'll go back to our bench and give it a final polish. Now, it's not perfect. There's a few flaws still in there. A few little dust spots that you can't quite get rid of, and I'm not prepared to push it any further than that. But dried off with a microfiber cloth, it looks absolutely fantastic. Absolutely beautiful clear coat. It's a shine beyond the shine, that, for sure. There we go. Very happy with it. So great paint, great 2K, great compound, polish job. Yeah, wonderful. Right, windows. So again, another technique I've tried many times and never really liked is masking windows like this. So I see a lot of people doing this. I've never had much luck, and after doing it this time, yep, I was going back to my usual way. So my usual way is using thin masking tapes like Tamiya or Aizu. A lot of people use big piece of Tamiya tape, burnish edges down, use a scalpel to cut it out. And whilst it is a much quicker way of doing it, I think doing it my way is much more accurate and I end up with much better demarcations on the windows. So yeah, I wish I hadn't, and going forward I will continue to mask with my thinner tapes. It's much more reliable and just gives a nicer demarcation. Admittedly, this is a lot quicker to do. You're literally done in less than a couple of minutes, but you've got to be very careful of that scalpel blade. One slip and you're cutting through your paint, which is one thing I'm definitely not really happy about doing. So yeah, pick your way, you do it. As long as you're happy doing it that way, that's all that matters really. So just make sure you got a nice fresh scalpel blade in there, and make sure you follow the lines of the window, because you do not want to slip out of this and cut your paint at all. So yeah, at least we tried something different again. But yeah, definitely going back to my old way. See, I slipped them, but luckily didn't mark the paint. So yeah, definitely not a fan of doing this way. Like I say, admittedly it is quicker, but I'd rather spend the time and do it properly. So if you do this, make sure you burnish all the edges back down once you cut it. And again, on the front, we're going to do this in multiple parts. And this is where I had the problem. It's mainly around that bonnet, the back edge of the bonnet where the scuttle panel is for the window wipers. It just didn't get a nice, even, clean demarcation on it. So I had to remask it later on. But it is what it is. Like I say, it's nothing wrong with trying new methods. You'll never find the best way unless you try your own. And obviously, I've been doing this for quite some time now, and I've got my ways that I do things. My way isn't always the right way. It's just the way I prefer to do it. So if you've got your own way and you prefer doing it this way, stick with it. Wherever works best for you, works best for you. And there we go. Admittedly, it is quicker this. It is a lot quicker. Masking the windows is not always something I look forward to doing. There we go. So yeah, it was this part that was troublesome. I just couldn't get a clean demarcation on the edge. So like I said, I came back, remasked it later, and resprayed it. It just made a neater job overall. And obviously, I am also terrified of catching the paint. I think on the Audi, I caught the paint very slightly, but luckily there's the dashboard went in there and hit it. So yeah, I was a little bit. Actually, it might have been on this. I tell a lie. I just nicked a tiny bit of paint off, but luckily it wasn't on the edge at the top, it was underneath. So once I got the dashboard in place, you couldn't see it anyway. We've been to the booth, we've sprayed some Mr. Surfacer 1500 black on there. So that's the front, rear screen and the engine cover done as well. So we just have a bit of a tidy up and then we can have an unmask. So what takes hours to mask usually is unmasked in seconds. And there we go. So yeah, not a bad job, but you can just see like on the rear window, the demarcation's not straight on the left-hand edge. So yeah, not very impressed by that. So on the side windows, yeah, we're going back to my old tried and trusted way. And like I say, we'll touch up some of the other areas I'm not happy with on the front and rear screen as well. I always think adding the black to the windows starts to add a bit of life to the car. It adds a little bit of depth to areas. So while it's a boring job to do, it's quite an enjoyable result to see. Because I just think it brings a bit of depth. It's like adding decals to a model. It just brings it to life a little bit more. And this for me, I definitely prefer doing this after 2K. I used to do it before because otherwise you get the 2K shine through the windows and that's not very realistic. So I like to do this after 2K. So again, we've got some Mr. Surfacer 1500 black. We've masked off these awkwardly annoying little grills at the front, which were a bit of a pig to do. And all our side windows as well. So when you're doing the side windows, make sure you get inside those B pillars like that. And all and around the A pillars. Although we are going to paint inside later on, it's still nice to get them all the same even colour because you can see through the windows on these, the A and B pillars, and they are a little bit oversized because they need to be quite thick for the resin. It's better if you don't do anything in there that draws attention to it. So make sure it's all the same colour, evenly painted, and as always, just take your time. But there we go, there's all our windows done. One final coat, just build it up slow. Like I said, there's little front grills, little vents, they were a bit of a pig to paint. Not paint, mask, sorry. A little bit of an awkward shape, but we got there in the end. So we don't mask it all, and it's looking good. And then we've got some Vallejo model colour black, thinned with a drop of water. And we're going to paint all of our interior and our wheel arches as well. So you could mask and paint this if you wish, but to be honest, you can barely see it. And this paint, brush paint's absolutely beautiful. And again, another stage of the build I always enjoy. I don't know why. I find it kind of relaxing. Brush paint again, it's like going back to your modelling roots. I brush paint quite a few things on the models. Obviously, you see me doing it in the builds. And it is quite enjoyable to do. It's like I said, it's going back to your modelling roots almost. Because we all started, well, most of us would have started without airbrushes. People coming into the hobby now are probably jumping straight into airbrushing more than likely. But for me, back in, oh my God, brush painting models with my dad and myself when I was a kid. I think it was more finger painting than brush painting. And then in my late teens, I did a few models as well. I didn't even paint some of those. And obviously I got back into the hobby properly in my early 20s. Well, not properly, but I got back into the hobby in my early 20s and then back into this properly in 2010. So there's the carbon on the seats, pre-cut carbon, fits pretty much spot on. So usual decal procedure, water, get it in place, get all the water out behind. We're hitting this with UMP Strong again, just to get it all set in place. So just let the decal solution sit and work and do its job. Then you can come back, cotton bud, start to burnish it down, getting around all the details and getting it set properly in place. So just be careful here. These are very good decals. I'm a big fan of Hobby Design decals. But once you start getting decal solutions on, it does soften the decal up. But I tend with these decals, tend to find you can actually push these quite away. A lot more than you think you can. So a little bit of heat always helps as well. Helps to help the decal conform. And one of the best tools you can use for modelling or decaling is your finger. Finger is fantastic for getting all the edges to conform because obviously it's a nice rounded blunt tool. And you can just burnish all the edges down nice and gently until we're happy that it's in place. So yeah, relatively easy. There's plenty of other carbon bits for the seat as well. You got the behind the headrest, and then in between the holes where the harnesses would come through is all carbon. And there's a few other bits and bobs of carbon on the interior as well. So basically just follow the instructions. Looking at real life pictures of the car helps as well. It can help you visualize where these go. I think it's well worth doing. Like I say, the Ultimate Decal Solutions, by far the best decals. I will say that I am biased. One of my products I developed for UMP. They work absolutely brilliant. And there we go. Now, another favourite thing I found lately is this craft bond. Now, the only thing I would say is don't put as much as I put in there because it's way too much. You ready? Oh, yeah, a little bit too much there. A little too much dynamite there, Butch. So this craft bond is a PVA-based glue. The difference to most PVA-based glues is it comes out that tube really nice and thick. So it's got purchase to it straight away. It grabs parts. Now, you can use other PVA-based glues like Deluxe Materials Glue and Glaze. Put it in a cup for, a medicine cup or whatever for 15 minutes, let it tack up. But this stuff, it comes with its own applicator. It's got some adhesive strength to it straight away. And yes, this is become one of my favourite glues to use. And it just rubs off with a moist finger or cotton bud. Yeah, it's got enough purchase to glue parts. Obviously, if it's something that's going to take a bit of stress or someone's got a bit of spring to it, you get need to use CA glue. But on parts like this on the dashboard, where they're just rested in place, this is perfect. It's great for grills and lights on the exterior as well, which you'll see later on the build. It's brilliant. Center console, a little bit more carbon on the edge of the console and around the gear shifter as well. So again, we get that in place, hit it with some UMP Strong. And then our foot pedals, we've got some PE to go in place as well. So again, with the Tamiya craft bond, just a little blob of glue on there. Like I say, try this stuff. If you have tried it, let me know what you think. I know a few people have bought it on the back of what I've been saying lately, so I'm interested to see their views on it. But for me, this is going to be making a lot of appearances in my builds because it's absolutely brilliant stuff. And again, all the little grills on the dashboard all glued in place with it too. And unlike CA glue, which even the Bob Smiths, you can see it behind grills and what have you, this stuff, get it in place, get a moistened cotton bud, and you can just remove all the excess and it dries relatively clear as well. Door cards, I'm going to CA glue on these door handles because knowing my look, I get it all in place and the bloody door handles will fall off inside the car when I put everything in. So a little bit of our cheap generic CA glue from Amazon. Gets that in there perfect. Hold it for a second or two. Job done. Now, it's a bit of a boring interior on this, but like 90% of the GT3s I look at just have a black interior. It seems to be like a trademark, a Porsche. Very pretty interior though. Our speaker grills are going in place there as well. But we have got contrasting colours, the Napa black leather, the LP5 semi-gloss, the carbon, so it does break it up a bit. It's just not the most exciting interior, but yeah, what a car the GT3 is. Absolutely beautiful. There we go. Like I say, speaker grill on, a little bit of the glue is squoze through the grill. So we just get a moistened cotton bud and that will wipe right off and you won't even see it. So like I say, highly recommended this. A bit difficult to find in the UK. I got it on eBay. So just have a search around. I think I paid about £8 for a tube. But that tube will last quite a long time. And as I always say, I think if something's worth paying for, I think it's worth the extra money. Now, my wonderful flocker Hannah, yes, she's a flocker, has flocked the interior floor of the Porsche with Pro Scale black flock, looking absolutely fantastic. And we're just gluing our center console in and our seats. And yeah, looking really good. Just using our cheap generic glue from Amazon CA glue here. Let's get it in place. Obviously, the seats are handed, so make sure you get the seat the correct way around. Yep, there you go. Shown into the webcam, not the film camera. Showing people in my Zoom hangout. But yeah, lovely seats. The carbon accents. Hard to see here, but the carbon looks absolutely fantastic. And then our accelerator and brake and our footrest going in place as well. Make sure everything's lined up. CA glue holding these in, so again, they don't fall out when we're putting bits in. The devil is in the detail. There's our dashboard. And our roll cage. This is a tricky little bugger to glue in place. Looks like I got it in one go there. It actually took me several attempts to CA glue it in place. And there we go. We're going to leave that there today. We'll be back for part 3 very soon. Thanks for watching today. And as always, thanks to my wonderful patrons whose names are going to flash up at